Wednesday, we're on sitting on the.
Do you want me to close the door?
We should probably.
Yes, I'll get it.
I'm just afraid if we tease it. Okay. Try to close the door and get some home.
If it gets too hot, then I'll start doing jumping jacks and cartwheels and create a lot of movement.
I'll tell more jokes.
No, I mean, it's not gonna
Have we done anyone else yet?
Yeah.
Who'd you do?
Rhonda Britton.
You did Rodney? Okay.
She talked very highly of you. And then Peggy McCall.
There you go.
And then we have next week.
Peggy, I'm not.
She's an author and she's a coach of authors.
Okay.
And she's a big.
Jeff, you ready?
She's got a business of her own, coaching business of her own.
Yeah.
But she also works a lot with Bob Proctor.
Oh, okay.
She does.
Alright,
She
so
speaks
sound
for him, and
speeds.
she's really the only person that he shares with the stage.
Allows. Yeah, okay. I
Camera
probably
rolling.
better.
I'm sure you have.
And then we have, next week, we have Bob and Sandy,
Blaine,
One last thing.
Blaine,
Yeah.
Blaine.
Bartlett?
Blaine Bartlett? Cynthia Christie's husband.
Oh, yeah. He's coming in to do a possibility situation.
Yeah.
and then
The team's getting bigger, it seems.
it is.
We have a total of 10,
Okay.
which is about what we want.
Uh-huh.
Then we have JG Virgin.
We're only.
If you know her, she's a health and fitness guru.
So these are the ones we'll use.
Yeah.
It would be more for the book.
Yeah.
Straight up.
And then, we don't know exactly what the network
So what?
is gonna want, so we figure we have a use for all of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Great,
for all
great.
these great guys, but, we just don't know who the network's gonna be.
Right,
What
right.
kind of,
Have an
mixture of
idea.
people, so we
Okay.
thought we'd reach out to multiple.
We're only.
Great.
Oh, okay.
Well, welcome
So I'm going to speak right here to your
Yeah.
chest.
I will stand right here
the whole
the
time.
whole time.
And if I go like this, don't let it break your concentration.
Okay.
He's gonna move that car so that there's not as much glare.
You shouldn't really think that you guys can do that.
All right, well, what we've had a lot of fun with thus far is, instead of us introducing our masters, we thought it was a lot more fun if they introduced themselves. We study you, and we've certainly read up on you, but we never seem to be able to do justice to the opening, who you are. So we're gonna let you introduce yourself. Who is Michael Beckwith?
The question is, who is Michael Beckwith? Presently, Michael Beckwith is the founder, spiritual director of the Agave International Spiritual Center, which is going into its 31st year. Under the aegis of that community, I teach meditation, I teach universal spiritual principles, I teach success workshops, I do private counseling, I travel around the world doing life visioning programs, and I have a magnificent opportunity to be in the community on a regular basis and speak to thousands of people on a weekly basis. All that began over 30 years ago and was, of course, preceded by a spiritual awakening that I had in 1975, in which on my path to medical school at USC, I had a spiritual awakening that totally shifted my perception of reality. And through that particular experience, I could see that we're surrounded by a universal presence of love and beauty and intelligence. People call it by many names: presence, God, love, intelligence, the Holy One, whatever name fits whatever one's culture. But this presence illuminates everything. And I went on a research project to discover what had happened to me. And in so doing, the trajectory of my life changed from where I thought I was going to ending up being a teacher of these universal spiritual principles, from a direct encounter with that which is essentially real and eternal.
Did this awakening come during one of your meditations?
The awakening did not come through meditation. At that time in my life, I was somewhat agnostic, and it was a series of experiences that lasted for about a week. I was in the about a year, I was in the psychobiology department at USC. So when I was having these experiences, I originally labeled them pathological. I thought I was going crazy. seeing tremendous visions, hearing things, guidance, and things of this particular nature. And then it culminated with me being in a lucid dream. Two men held me down, and one man stabbed me in the heart with a knife. The pain was excruciating, physically and emotionally. When I woke from that, that's when I could see the life force that was everywhere, that changed the trajectory of my life. So it wasn't through meditation. I didn't begin to consciously meditate until after that.
Wow. Pretty stuff.
It's fascinating that it came to you in a dream. There are so many people that they get tapped in to whatever this energy is you're talking about, God, source, through dreams. It's like it presents itself, and that's exactly what happened with you, it sounds like.
Yeah, that particular dream, I still pull revelations from. I mean, still, it's an ongoing revelation. It was a number of years of integration, of being taught inwardly, and that revelation continues. It's an ongoing unfoldment of more knowledge and more wisdom pouring forth. And my spiritual practice keeps me receptive and available to it. It's not one and done. It's not like, oh, you woke up and that's it. It's a continual awakening, because as I know, each of us are infinite beings. We have no beginning, we have no end. So our arc of unfoldment is forever. So those who are seeking for joy or happiness, success, love, well-being, it's a constant unfolding that they're looking for, constant unfolding of their soul.
When you first had this awakening, did it scare you? I mean, like after the dream, did you go through any period of time where you were like, what am I experiencing and how do I deal with this?
And absolutely, it was a long period of time of integration. When it originally happened, it's much like you're in a dream, you're in a fog, you think you're awake, and then suddenly you wake up. And so initially, it was a tremendous enthusiasm that I could see. And what I thought was real before was only a sliver of perception. And so there was enthusiasm, but my lifestyle changed. The friends I had shifted. My priorities shifted. My habits shifted. And so there was a kind of a tearing down of my old life and then a rebuilding of my new life based on my expanded awareness. So there was trepidation there. There was fear, particularly as things began to fall away. But underneath all of that was a tremendous joy, a tremendous peace of mind that I think is very rare in the world. People really having a deep sense of peace and well-being, because most of the time an individual's peace is based upon some external condition or circumstance. Everything is going right, they're happy and in peace. If things aren't going well, they're not in peace. So I was able to tap into a peace that had nothing to do with external conditions, which I think is very rare. It's something that you have to focus on, and you have to have a level of practice around it in order to have that kind of insight.
Do you feel it was like a gift? So some of us read it, right? Some of us read it, we try to understand, we try to have these awakenings on our own. Some of us find them, some of us don't, but it seems like, I don't know if you were studying any of this type of stuff or any of the philosophies around it, but it seems to have came to you at once.
I considered it a gift. I considered that moment a gift. As now that a number of years has passed by, I realized some level in my life, I had been doing some spiritual work. And it came to me as, like I was remembering something I already knew. That the scales fell from my eyes and I was literally remembering something. I can remember beginning to read certain spiritual books, and I already knew what the book said before I turned the page. I already knew what the books were saying. It was like I was remembering something that was already within me. So today I look at that whole experience as a gift of grace, and that came upon my heart and soul and changed my life forever, to the point now I have served and get to serve thousands of people on a yearly basis.
So you had this shift through the dream. Your life completely changed. So how would you define your life mission now?
my life mission is essentially about waking up individuals to their true nature, to have people come to an understanding that there's nothing inherently wrong with them. There's nothing missing within them. There's nothing that they did so bad that they cannot live a very fulfilled and generous life. And so all of that is under the field of awakening to one's essential nature. And so I think people carry a kind of a film over their awareness where they think something's wrong with them. Something's inherently wrong. They're missing something. They don't have enough. Or else they look at themselves through the lens of how other people are thinking about them. And then they seek to navigate through the world with those kind of perceptions. So I help people break through those limited perceptions of how they think other people are thinking about them, or how they've been taught to think about themselves in terms of not being worthy, not being good enough, some kind of original sin, this type of thing. And all of that is bogus. All of that is a lie. All of that is a figment and the misuse of one's imagination. And so I'm able to see that in people, that which is real, and help coax it out, to help them become activated around something that is really who they are, not what their parents gave them, not what they received from their ancestors, not what they received from society or their schooling, but from the depth of their being, as a spiritual being, as a being who essentially had no birth and will never die, that there's something really good about them and magnificent, and there's a powerful destiny within them. And discover that destiny, to articulate it, and then to walk in that direction, and then wonderful things begin to happen in their lives.
Do you see that? Do you see that in the people right when you meet them, or do you uncover it as you work with them?
Well,
Real quick. Just so that shot this can cut.
I'm hiding over here in the corner. Yeah.
Well, I'm in an awareness where I'm looking for that in people all the time. When I meet people or when I'm around people, I'm kind of hanging out in their higher self. I don't look for negativity or look for any blind spots, except for in a counseling session, I may be able to. But most of the time, I'm just seeing people as a sense of light and beauty and love. And then with more and more interaction, then my ability to see them more clearly intensifies. So it's kind of where I live.
Great. In 1986, you established the Agave Spiritual Center in Los Angeles. Would you describe what that is and where the idea to do it came from?
The Agave International Spiritual Center had its first public service November 30th, 1986. That is when I outed myself publicly as a spiritual teacher. And it is a spiritual community that is known by many around the world as the United Nations of spiritual communities, primarily because of its diversity and inclusivity. When you walk into the doors of Agave, you see everyone there. You see all the stripes of ethnicity, gender, age, religions. It's all there. It's all there in the room. We have rabbis that come through. We have Christians. We have Buddhists. We have Muslims. We have agnostics that come and begin to celebrate and worship the presence that, as I say, the presence that is never an absence. And so it's a spiritual community that's based upon certain wonderful principles of awakening and spiritual practice to allow an individual to go through a period of healing where they basically come to a level of coherence around their essential nature, and then to find their place in the world where they're going to give their gift. So it's not about navel gazing or sitting around just meditating and doing nothing else. It's about discovering yourself and then asking, how can I serve? How can I deliver my gift? How can I share the skills that are within me to help build a kind and just global society? So at one level, Agave is a hospital. People come in to be healed. At another level, it is a birthing field where people catch the visions for their life and go forward. Some people come they need more of the hospitalization and healing because they've been beat up by the world. And some people are coming to sit in the birthing field of possibility and begin to describe and walk in the direction of their giftedness, so that the infinite possibilities that we're surrounded by and that are loaded and coded within us begin to be active. And so Agape is a spiritual center. We don't call it a mosque. We don't call it a church. We don't call it a synagogue. It's all of that and more. It's a spiritual center where seekers come to discover themselves and to make a difference on the planet.
We've got to go.
I know,
Got to go.
totally. Michael, so who would you describe to be the most influential person or teacher in your life?
The individuals that affected me the most, it's not one individual. I have to begin with my parents. I think of my dad, who retired as a judge. Primarily what I saw in him, raising 3 boys. He was a probation officer. He decided to go into law, became an attorney. He was the oldest man in his law class. And then the later part of his life became a judge. He always did what he said he was going to do. He was a man of his word, tremendous wisdom, could look at a person, read them in an instant. So he had a great effect on me in terms of nothing can stop you. You say what you're going to do and you walk in that direction, you do it. He never thought it was a big deal. People would say, God, you went to law school at such a late age. You had 3 kids. You changed your careers. He said, I just walked in that direction and I did it. Wasn't really concerned about obstacles. My mother, tremendously altruistic, civil rights movement, very involved in the community. She was very social. My father was to himself, but took care of business. So I would like to think I got the best of both of them. I was greatly influenced by spiritual teachers, such as a man by the name of Dr. Homer Johnson, who was a tremendous teacher, tremendous mystic that I had an opportunity to walk closely with. Dr. Daniel M. Morgan, great metaphysical teacher that founded the Guidance Spiritual Community. Had an opportunity to work with him for years. Very, very powerful man. Obviously, I think I was greatly influenced by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I had a chance to meet him as a small boy. My mother took me to meet him at Holman's Methodist Church and heard him speak. And I shook his hand, and I remember saying to my mom, he has such soft hands. And she said, he does a different kind of work, baby. And so there was his speeches were played continually in my house. Jazz, Aretha Franklin, Dr. King. And so that was a great influence in terms of agape love, in terms of the great possibility for the world and the great possibility for every soul on the planet. And then other teachers that came forward, I understood the mystical teachings of Jesus the Christ, the unchurched Jesus, not the church Jesus, which is sometimes mired in a dogma and limited theology, but the pure teachings of a mystic, of Jesus or Buddha, Krishna, are very, very, very powerful. And so I was able to embrace those teachings unadorned by man's confusion. So I imagine there's been a number of teachers along the way, but those were great influences in my life.
In your own words, would you tell us, why do you think people come to you for help?
Can I say them in your words?
Would you please? Let me just do that.
Take over.
No, because I could easily tell you, mirror back what I'm hearing from you, but I want you to.
Why do people come?
Right.
I have a feeling that people come, first of all, to Agape, because they're able to receive the pure message from someone who's had a true encounter with the presence. There are many people on the planet who know about these teachings. They're not, they're now, it's a perennial teaching, and it's popular these days. But many people know about it, but they don't really know it. And I think people, when they're around me for a period of time, actually can catch that I know it. I've actually had the encounter, continually had the encounter, and they can feel that. So there's a tremendous amount of enthusiasm in me as I get to teach and share. And that enthusiasm has never waned. Over 30 years, I wake up every single day pretty much as if it's a new day. Like I'm just getting started all the time. And so I think that mentally, when you think about doing something for 30 years, someone might say that's a long time, but I never did anything for 30 years. I just begin anew every day, and it's always new. And I think people feel that in me, and they get to catch that dynamic enthusiasm about life and possibility and love and beauty and abundance and prosperity. They can feel the possibility of it, and I get to coax it out of them. And I think they also pick up the fact that I like people. I love people. I not only love the teachings, but I love people, so I love to share the teachings with people. So I think that all of that becomes a part of who individuals see as Michael Beckwith.
Okay, next question. In general, what would you say stops people from living out their dreams?
People, sometimes people don't live up to their dreams because they don't have one. They really muddle through life under societal fantasy or parental fantasy or an educational fantasy. They haven't really tapped into their own dream, their own possibility. They haven't tapped into their own vision. They're just kind of navigating through life based on the conditions that life is giving them, and they're more operating from a sense of survival rather than from vision. And so that's one of the big reasons. Individuals don't have a dream. I can interview 10 people right now and say, what is it that you want in life? And 80% of their conversation is going to be what they don't want. They'll begin to describe everything they don't want to experience. I don't want to be like my parents. I don't want to be like my Uncle Joe. I don't want this to happen to me. And they'll spend a limited period of time speaking about the dream of their heart, the vision that's pulling them. So first of all, you have to have a dream. You have to have a vision. You have to articulate it. And so that at any given moment, you can say, my life is about, and this is the direction I'm heading in. And then secondly, people don't live up to their dreams because not that they're afraid of failure, but they're afraid of success. They're afraid of the changes they're going to have to go through to be successful. In other words, when you begin to walk the path of success, you're going to go through transformation. There's going to be things, the way you think, the way you speak, the way you act, that are not fitting an individual of success. That's going to have to change. It's going to have to fall apart. And that falling apart is uncomfortable. And oftentimes people don't want to pay the price of that kind of transformation to be happy, to be successful, to be healthy, to be prosperous. All spiritual growth, development, and unfoldment, I mean 100% all, is about letting go of something. It's not about gaining anything because we already have everything. It's about letting go of a perception, self-perception or worldly perception. It's about letting go of a habit, letting go of priorities, negative conversations. There's something that's going to have to change.
Can I have you repeat the last sentence? Just the last sentence.
There's something that's going to have to change in us. And people are afraid of change because they have built their life with coping mechanisms, defense mechanisms, compulsive behaviors that allow them to stay the same while they try to change the world around them. That is not a recipe for success. The recipe for success is to have a dream, a vision, walk in that direction. In walking in that direction, you'll discover your blind spots. You'll discover habits and perceptions that you need to let go of. You'll do inner work. You'll begin to let go of those perceptions. And the individual that says, I want to be successful, I want to be happy, will not be the same individual that steps into that happiness. There will have been a metamorphosis and a change, and people are afraid of change.
Wow. Can't wait to listen to that.
Me neither. Wow.
As one of the thought leaders featured in the movie The Secret, can you explain your experience and what you learned from it?
I was the last teacher to be filmed in the movie The Secret. A lot of my friends and colleagues were in Aspen when Rhonda Burns flew there and began to interview them. My schedule was very tight. I couldn't make it to Aspen. She stopped off in Los Angeles on the way back to Australia and came to Agave. After hearing me speak, she comes up to me and she says, "Will you be in my movie?" And I said, "Who are you and what movie are you talking about?" And she says, "I'm Rhonda Byrne. I'm the one filming the movie The Secret. Your friends, Bob Proctor and Jan Canfield and many others, they were with me this past weekend. We wanted you there, but you couldn't be there." I said, "Oh, that movie." I said, "Sure." And she put up a green screen. I think it was the next day. And I sat and she began to interview me. And at some point in the interview, she said, "You know, I'm not going to interview anymore. Just talk." And I just began to speak and teach. And next thing I know, a number of months later, I received this CD in the mail saying that the project was finished. And I watched it on television, on my television, and it's like, wow, this is going to be pretty big. So that's how I entered into that. And then subsequently, me and Bob Proctor and a number of others traveled around the world where the movie was being debuted, spoke, did classes, did seminars around it, and things of that particular nature. And what I learned was a number of things. I remember some other teachers started to put down the movie. And I can remember being at a conference where they were suddenly attacking me. And I had to remind them that, one, this movie had touched millions of people. It was giving people an entryway into basic metaphysics and an entryway into basic practice. And two, this woman took her skill of a filmmaker, gathered teachers together and produced a movie, and they'd been teaching for many years and never thought about that idea. So there was no need for them to be jealous or envious of the fact they were in the movie. They should do their own movie. And I learned about human nature. When someone rises to success, mediocrity always has a tendency to throw a rock at it. But primarily, I just learned that there were so many people who were affected by it, that when you give a little bit of information, a little bit of knowledge about these ancient teachings, people are hungry. People are hungry. That movie is still selling. And I still get letters and emails from people who just now have seen it 10 years later. You know, their mind is blown. They want to meet me. They want to come to Agave. They want me to teach them. So I think that was the right use of technology at that particular time.
You know, it makes us so excited to hear this type of stuff because it's exactly what the television show Masters of Possibility wants to do, except it wants to provide a vehicle for you guys to go out and reach the millions of people. You know, instead of people having to find it, we want to put it inside their living room.
Yes.
You know, so they have to find it.
Yes.
Because you don't know what you don't know, right? Anyway, I'm not going to digress, but
Right, but
just
people
gets me
they
excited
didn't
when I hear
know.
that stuff.
The thing about this teaching, whether it's coming to Agave or whether it's picking up the movie or the book, The Secret, individuals feel like they are a victim to circumstances. And when you begin to understand the basics of infinite possibility that lies within us, you begin to understand you're not a victim. You don't have to be a victim to conditions. You can actually change your life. That should be taught from kindergarten, that you have a destiny and that you can actually participate in the unfolding of your own destiny. That should be taught all the way through junior high, high school, should be basic to us as human beings. It's not. And so this teaching is very, very important, I think, for this time in human history.
Could not agree more. What do you think it is in society that keeps it from becoming more known. I mean, it's completely mind-blowing and enlightening. You get just a little taste of it, it spreads like wildfire in your own mind. Why do you think there's still, I don't know if it's our school system or what it is, but why they don't introduce this to us at an earlier age, and those of us that are trying to help spread the word of it, why it's so difficult? Like, what's the control in your mind?
I think what keeps this from spreading, first of all, in the last 30 years, it has spread tremendously. When I began Agave, and even before I did Agave, I was doing seminars and workshops and teachings. We were looked upon as kind of weird. Those are the weird guys. Michael was kind of a weird guy. Now, it's $1 billion industry, these teachings. You can go on the internet and find all kinds of people who are teaching something very similar. So it's gone from being weird and in the back room of an occult bookstore to now full sections of metaphysics, full sections on people being introduced to Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, books by myself, book by Bob, Jack Canfield. So it has grown tremendously. And so, and that's not going to abate, that's going to continue. Now, one of the reasons why it gets stymied is a couple of reasons. One, people are living in the survival zone. They wake up every single day and they just want to survive. How can I make it through the day? How can I pay my rent? How can I get my kids through school? They're in this constant sense of survival. So they're not really receptive to a teaching that's going to tell them not only how to survive, but more importantly, how to live their best life, how to live a great destiny that includes survival. It includes and transcends survival into thriving, prosperity, health, happiness. So when you're just caught in that survival zone, you're not really receptive to these kind of teachings, unless there is a crisis. I teach that we grow in two ways: crisis or insight. So if an individual gets sick and tired of being sick and tired, and their life's just falling apart, oftentimes they're very receptive because they're at their wits' end. And sometimes, like myself, I had an insight, I had a revelation, I had a mind-blowing experience that changed my life and made me go explore these principles. So, and the other thing is, our school systems aren't really set up for this. Our school systems are basically set up to turn out workers, to get jobs, and perhaps maybe have a career. Most people have jobs, few people have careers, and then very, very few people have callings. And so I think that we have to teach that each of us have a calling. And our calling will lead us to turn that calling into a career, but most people are just, the school system is just gearing them more towards jobs. Society itself is just looking for cheap labor. And this teaching begins to open people up to the possibility that they're full to overflowing with creativity, innovativeness, resourcefulness. All of that's within all of us, but it's untapped because people are just want a job so they can retire and do nothing. And that's not what is meant for us as powerful beings on this planet.
And this is so timely, the concept of masters of possibility. There's a few things behind it that really motivate me as one of the producers. And it's that you always hear about all the jobs being sent overseas, but more jobs are lost too. And all these jobs will be lost to automation, robotics. So what we have to do as individuals, and then your calling comes into play, as well as all the other masters, for people to begin to look at themselves and redefine themselves. What are we as humans?
Yes.
So I think that's very important.
It's very important. Recession activates resourcefulness. And that when there's a recession in our society or a seeming lack, it's to activate the latent potential within us. It's not to make us go hide under a rock and become afraid, or just to operate from our survival instincts, but it's actually to put us in a position to ask deeply and profound, empowering questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What gifts do I have to give? How can I activate these gifts? How can I express these gifts? And based on universal law, the law will begin to answer those questions for each individual that is daring enough to ask.
What product or program or book that you have created is your favorite? I know you've done so many, it's going to be hard to choose your
It is.
children, but
It's like, what child is my favorite?
right. But based on
Yes.
the kinds of results you see from people and the feedback you're getting from people, what would you say is the most important?
Yeah. I would probably right now talk about the life visioning process, the life visioning book, and subsequent products that go along with it, because it gives the individual not only a step-by-step way of going in and going into his meditative practice, but also begins to teach them how to capture and articulate the vision in their life, the vision that pulled them to take this incarnation. So that particular one is very dear to me. It's used in board meetings around the world, corporate as well as spiritual. So the nonprofit sector as well as the for-profit sector use this process and use the books, and I go out and teach it. So I think that has an entry level into the masses. The other books are really good. Spiritual Liberation, people love it. They love The Answer Is You for my PBS special. But I think that the Life Visioning course in the book and the subsequent products really speak to a very practical way of accessing and articulating your vision.
So you do a lot of work internationally. Can you speak to your participation in the Gandhi King season for nonviolence and give us suggestions about how, as human beings, we can transform the world?
It's very interesting. I am a co-chair along with Arun Gandhi, Mohandas K. Gandhi's grandson, what we just called the Season of Nonviolence. And what we did a number of years ago was put together Dr. King and Mohandas K. Gandhi's anniversary of their assassinations. King had been assassinated 30 years. Gandhi had been assassinated 50 years. So on that 50 and 30 year memorial anniversary, we launched this Season for Nonviolence to bring these principles back into conversation again around the world. We launched it at the United Nations. Now, speaking of possibilities, we met a few of us at a hotel room about a year before that and said, what do we want to do? And we said, we clicked our glasses. I had sparkling apple cider. And we said, this time next year, we're going to be at the United Nations kicking off the Season for Nonviolence. And we agreed that that would happen. And then things came together, and we were there with Yolanda King, Dr. King's oldest daughter, Arun Gandhi, a number of other spiritual adepts from around the world. And we launched this Season for Nonviolence that's now in many countries around the world. So between January and April, January 30th and April, we celebrate those 64 days. And every day there's a different practice. Sometimes it's a practice just with your spouse or your friend, your boss. It's practice with yourself to come into a state of peace, a state of nonviolence, because the transformation must begin within. So what I've noticed over the years is that it's become very popular. There's been different coverages of it on the media at different times, but people are really hungry for this because you're living in a society, not just in a society, but a world in which funnels so much of the resources into defense, and then they all come to an agreement that we should all be afraid of each other. And then that becomes the meme by which the world is living through. But when you actually go out and are with people from these different countries, they don't live under that. They wake up and they understand that a person in Pakistan or Afghanistan or Africa or China or Japan or United States, they want their kids to be safe. They want their kids to have food, a shelter, go to school, and live a wonderful life. They're not, they don't demonize each other. That's primarily happening on the governmental level. But on a people level, People want peace. They want love. They want security. So these principles allow an individual to go in and to begin to make a difference in their own life. And it's been my privilege to work as a co-chairman of this for many years.
This sort of ties in. So what is your favorite part of your job, even though you probably don't call what you do a job? What is your favorite part about what you do?
I call it a calling that's morphed itself into an over 30-year career. One of my favorite parts is people come up to me and they say, "You have changed my life for the better." And when I hear that, it's like music to my ears, and provides a level of fuel to keep on doing what I'm doing. I get to actually see people's lives transform. Sometimes crawling in on their belly, but then flying out with a vision or possibility. To actually see that. And I think I have a wonderful advantage over many of my colleagues, because I actually have a spiritual community. I mean, I actually go out and do seminars and programs around the world, but I have a community that I come back to, and being around these people in classes, meditation retreats, over and over and over again, seeing a lot of times the same people, you can actually see a person being one way one year, and then a couple of years later, actually walking with a degree of peace and confidence and making a difference in the world. I actually get to see that. When I'm traveling around and speaking, I can feel it in the audience that I'm making a difference. But I may not see those people again for another year. So seeing transformation in people, it's really magnificent. It's really a great part of my job.
No, it's great. What is your dream for the future?
When I project into the future myself personally, there's of course continued expanding awareness, but different ways by which I can affect more people in the time that I have on the planet, which will be a long time. But I want to affect more people. So I see the possibility of the right use of technology to touch more and more people, to uplift, inspire, heal, and help transform lives. When I see the dream of Agave, International Spiritual Center, I see our own campus where individuals come for classes, come to learn meditation. It's a place for the children to go to school where they get these principles, along with reading and writing and arithmetic and history and all the things that they're to learn. They'll also understand the principles of life as a part of the curriculum. So I see that school emerging in our community. So I see the community expanding, and I see my reach expanding. And that's part of my dream, to be of greater service than I've ever been before in my life.
Can I ask how big your church is? I mean,
The congregation,
Yeah.
the number of people that come through, it's if we look on the numbers of people who say I'm a member locally, it'd be over 10,000 people, I imagine. Practically, in terms of who shows up, you're dealing with about 3,000 or 4,000 people every week that comes through Agave, and then thousands more streaming in on the live stream. So we touch a lot of people.
Mm.
And I mean, when I say thousands and thousands of people around the world watching.
So one of the things that we want to do with Masters of Possibility is do these interviews. Thank you so much for doing the interview for us, by the way.
Enjoy.
And we're touched by what you do, and we also would like to highlight people who you've worked with, because people could read a book, but to see a transformation, to watch somebody do a transformation using television, that medium, where people could relate to it, that's something that I think is untapped.
Yes.
So from all the people that you've worked with, I know that it's been tens of thousands, but can you just give us some names?
Names
Of people?
If you're not comfortable giving names on
Oh,
camera,
wait,
that's fine.
okay, no, not experiences or people who you who are your students,
Mhm.
who you've seen tremendous transformation?
I can share a couple because they've outed themselves
Okay.
in terms of that. One of our great students is Christina Applegate. Has basically grown up at Agave, and whenever she's going through life challenges, I'm one of the first numbers that she calls. And I've watched her grow from a young lady to seeking now to make a bigger difference on the planet with her celebrity. So she didn't give up acting or that which she does, but she started a foundation to assist women with breast cancer. She's a spokesman for that, and she's become just a very beautiful, positive, affirmative being. She even makes a big difference in the school her daughter goes to because she brings these principles to her daughter's school and teaches. She teaches the season for nonviolence at the school. So she's taken on to this. We look at someone like another being who grew up at Agave, Hilary Swank, who of course received 2 Oscars. The first Oscar she received, she thanked me. She forgot to thank her husband. Static in the house. Well, she thanked me for keeping her heart open and keeping her, amidst the Hollywood glamour, being able to stay true to her vision and how she wants to live her life. And those are people who have come out and said this type of thing. I'm sure there's many others, even Terry the Hulk Hogan speaks to the fact that he was on the verge of suicide until he came to Agave. As a matter of fact, he mentioned that recently when he was going through all this drama about whether he was a racist or not, this type of thing. And he spoke to the fact that his spiritual teacher is Michael Beckwith. Layla Ali brought him to Agave when he was suicidal and shifted his perspective and changed his life. Layla Ali is another one that I'd say grew up at Agave and carries a very strong affirmative vibration with her. So these are people that I keep talking, I'll probably think of more and more and more, but these are points that come to my mind right now of individuals who have come through the doors of Beckwith, doors of Agave, and their lives have changed.
And of those people, if any of them would be interested in doing an interview, an on-camera interview, we would love an
They
introduction.
all would. All 4 of them would be willing to do that.
Okay, well, should we call them and get the camera set up? Let's get them over here. That would be great.
Can you think of anybody I'm missing that has spoken out?
People who have spoken out, when you say spoken out,
I mean, I've mentioned, I don't want to out people because some people like to maintain their privacy. Yeah.
You kind of earlier you were talking a little bit about when you help someone and you see it, it makes you that makes you feel great,
Yes.
right? And it probably inspires you to do more, right? So this is the reason why we want to talk to some of the people that have done it, because we feel if other people see that, it's going to make them want to do it.
Yes.
It makes us want to do more.
Mhm.
The more we get involved, it's like we want to just keep ripping at this thing until we get what we want. We won't go into what it is that we want. It's apparent what we want to do.
There's so many. I was just thought about, you probably don't know her, but she's another fine actor, Akuyo Graham, who was in, what was the name of those movies? I can't remember. But she's taken these principles and now she works in, she still acts and does commercials, but now she works in juvenile hall, saving the lives of our children that society has thrown away. She founded an organization in my office. We worked on it called Spirit Awakening. And she goes in, she's just been asked recently, they're having tremendous amount of trouble in the juvenile department. And they've asked her to come in because she's the only one who can reach the kids because they know her sincerity, her honesty. They can smell anything else a mile away. People just doing their job. Great being. Took these principles and ran with them. Very powerful.
Where are we going to Agave?
I know. I gotta go. I'm gonna bring my whole family.
Good.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for taking the time.
Oh, my gosh.
It was an honor to have you come out here. We appreciate it.
Hey, it's my joy. Let's do it.
Yes, for sure.
Oh,
A quick update. Phil did sit down with Bob Greenblatt, just so you guys know. I was going to send something out to each person individually, but since you're here this last week, and he pitched the idea of the show, and he didn't feel it was right for NBC. But the promising thing is, he does think it. He gave Phil a few other
Introduction.
affiliate networks that he feels might be right for.
Okay.
So we're going to keep picking away at them. We know we have Netflix, or we know we have interest. We know we have interest from a couple other cable channels, but we want the largest audience we can, so we don't want to rush. We don't want to jump at the first thing,
Right.
sign of of interest and go that way. So, but we're working every day on it. We met with another gentleman yesterday.
Yeah.
The day before is another distributor. And we're talking to some. We're starting the dialogue with some television stations in Mexico City as well that have expressed interest. So we're just going to keep going and keep you guys in the loop on the plan, and we're kind of,
Yeah, and the Latin American market is
big one.
750 million. Yeah, it's huge. So, and then also Fletch right there. He's our tech guru and our internet marketer extraordinaire, and he's continuing to do all kinds of stuff behind the scenes on the website, and we're taking these materials that we're getting, and we're
So this would be edited, obviously.
edited, and it's going to be helped to populate the website, and then at some point we'll reach out to you, and we'll get affiliate links for what you do sell. We'll get it on there. We're going to drive traffic there, because Masters of Possibility is happening even before the networks know about it. It is happening.
It's a breathing entity now,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
So,
It's got us more than we have it.
Let's do it.
yeah. All right.
See you later, Fletch.
Hey, thanks, Michael. I really appreciate that. I've got some more questions for you when we get to be in front of one another. So
Beautiful.
that was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
My joy. It'd be my joy to answer whatever you have coming up. on the brain there.
I guess we were rude to not have you ask a couple of questions.
That's what happens when I get stuck over here in the corner, Jeff. You just
But maybe in the
I'm in Phoenix. It's like 117 degrees. I'm sweating. I got all this going on. I don't even get to ask a question.
Well, and the other thing, Mike,
okay.
was this is fun. This is great that we have you live, but we would like this to be the first of more interviews, and maybe we could do a Google Hangout where you're at home or you're at your office, and then Fletch,
Hey.
your questions answered.
All right. That sounds good. It's a deal.
This guy is super cerebral. He like pulls things apart and he asks questions. And you're like, whoa, why did I think of that?
Now I've got something to live up to, Mick. I'll have to rephrase my questions a little bit.
All right. All right. So, all right. See you.
Thanks, Michael.
In touch, Fletch.
All right, guys. Take care.
Gosh, you guys, that was so good. I can't wait to do that.
needed.